welcome back to What Do We Know? We figured out we are at episode 7, so we do know that. And today we're going to talk about motherhood, being a mom, to work or not to work. That is the question. How do we were just talking about Proverbs 31 women, just kind of looking into how culture has shaped us and how the church has shaped us and kind of where we are now and how our just even our slight differences in age have made such an impact. We started our conversation before, so we're gonna let you in and just kind of continue where we were. So Jolie, you want to kind of pick up where we were talking?
Yeah, sure. So just like a little backtracking. So I'm sitting in therapy last week and I'm kind of talking about like, okay, where I'm at life. Like, and I'm like having some kind of midlife crisis about what to do now that my kids are older, that got our last one in the house. And she actually was the one that said, well, because the generation I'm from, you were led to believe like you had to stay home and you couldn't do work outside of the home, and it was the better thing to stay home. And hear me say, I'm not saying that it's not. What I'm saying is, now I'm going to cry. Now that I'm 52, like what now? Because I don't have like I have a college education, but I can't jump into a career now. And not that I would want to, but what did I build? And who am I? And I'm hanging out with all these women that are my age that have these flourishing businesses because they worked while they were raising their kids. And some of my friends, their businesses are what support their family because they have used their gifts, which are very similar to mine, art and, fashion and all these things, home decor, and they've used those gifts to create these wonderful, life-giving businesses. And I'm sitting here thinking, but I was told not to do that. I was told to have all my focus at home. My sole job was to be a mom, take care of the house, take care of my husband. And that's where my 100% focus should be. And not that that was bad. Like, and to be fair, I have more kids than the average person. So it did take more. And I wouldn't change the way I did it. But what I'm wondering is, what do I tell my kids? Like, where am I at with what do I tell my kids of like what about pursuing where their talents lie and where their gifting lies and where their passion lies? Because now, like I'm trying to figure that out. And so if you have a passion for something, how do you pursue that and have a family and raise the kids? Because I guess even when I'm saying it, what I was told was my passion should be to have kids and be married, or be married and have kids, put in the right order. But like, that's what my passion should be. And as a woman, of course, that's what you're supposed to have this desire. And it's not that that's not my desire, but in addition to that, do I get to have other passions?
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like, I mean, obviously men don't hear the same message. And so,
No.
And so like what,
Not at all.
so does that, it's like, and I'm not saying that we're not different. Obviously we're different. Obviously we have God-given things that are different. But I think one of the things I said the other day is one of our God, given feminine things is being a helpmate and a multitasker. Mm-hmm. So wouldn't that think that then he has made me capable of being passionate about two separate things, passionate about my kids, passionate about my marriage, and passionate about something outside the home? Mm-hmm. And so, like, I just like, what does that look like? And how do we encourage people without taking it too far? It's like finding that fine line. Like, I'm not saying don't get married and don't have kids and throw all your kids in daycare or whatever. and not that daycare is bad either, but I'm just saying, like, what is it? What does it look like?
Yeah. Clearly it's wildly different for everybody, and it's allowed to be.
Yeah.
You were asking, what do I tell my kids? And I just was listening to that podcast with Alex Clark and
Yeah.
her guest talking about motherhood can't wait and the priority of being a mom. And I really liked something she said was that we're waiting too long to talk to our kids about what their actual dream life looks like. And maybe in high school, looking at that, and instead of looking at, well, I just want to go, my kid wants to be a doctor or a nurse, anesthetist, or whatever she wants to be.
Yeah.
It's far above my pay grade or anything I've done, so I don't really understand a lot of it. And I want her to become what she wants. But in the middle of that conversation, she's figuring out, how do I do this and be a mom? This is a very interesting conversation for me because those are both her passions. So I actually love this topic because listening to that podcast, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm doing one thing right. I don't do many, but maybe that's good. But I do think that we were told what we were supposed to do instead of being asked what our hopes and dreams, what our purpose, what our passion was. So maybe it's not listening to what our culture tells us. And maybe the culture isn't the world. Maybe the culture is the church that we attend. I think if you're apostolic or if you're a Mormon or if you're a Methodist, you're going to hear a wildly different thing. You know what I mean? From those groups of people, Baptist or non-denominational, everybody is going to kind of tell you something.
Right.
And right here in this line of women, the three of us, we've all heard different things in our generations. But I think the best thing I heard on that podcast was to figure out and to start younger with our girls. Girls are the only ones that have this dilemma, PS, because we're the only ones that can make babies. So this is only our issue. But what if we asked, instead of shame or blame or whatever is happening or the social norm, what if we asked our kids what your dream is and then build around that and try and bring in biblical principles without, this is how women do it? Because we were talking about Proverbs 31, and I truly believe she is in the marketplace. She is out till nighttime in the fields. Like, she's working her ass off.
Right.
And that's the most honored woman in the body. You know what I mean? Like, we're all supposed to be this woman. And I don't see somebody just sitting at home. And I'm not saying that being a stay-at-home mom is just sitting at home. I'm just saying, I think it's time to flip the script, basically, because you're not alone in what you're feeling. I've gone through tons of seasons where I have a complete lack of purpose. And I think a lot of my depression, going back to last week, was guilt because I felt no purpose in the middle of what my absolute
purpose
highest calling
was
and
supposed
purpose
to
is.
be.
Yeah.
And that is my absolute highest calling. I'm in a point right now where, sorry, but if you call and London wants to hang out with me, I'm not going to go hang out with you because I have 15 minutes with my kid and it's my last one at home. Like, so I'm in that odd, like, hanging on season, but I would have done a lot of things to get out of my house when my kids were little, when my kids were in 3rd, 4th grade and they were super, like, there's all these times where I was just like, this cannot be what it is. And then you do get to that point where you're like, well, what the hell do I do now? Like, what am I going to do? Because you didn't get a walk in your other giftings that you could have probably been extremely successful in. And that's probably what you're mourning right now.
I think so. And I think part of it is, like, the only place that then I felt like was the acceptable place to use my giftings was the church.
How interesting.
So I'm using all my giftings. It's okay if I
stay
pour
home
into
and then
the church.
come volunteer later.
Like, it's like then everything is, it's just a weird place. So it's all wrapped up in, okay, well, it's okay if I do it if it's at the church. And so I just feel like, now what? And now it's trying to start. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to start a business at this point. And, as we're moving in a different direction with.
That is not true.
Christian's
Morgan
job.
Freeman started acting at 50.
Did he really?
That's cool.
Yes.
I did not know that.
There's a lot of, I think that's this off topic, but I think that's something we're told too, that our age dictates stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there, off the topic. But
Yeah. It's just a weird, I think it's weird for me to like watch like these other Christian women do these things and wait, didn't you hear the same message I heard? Didn't you hear that didn't you know you were supposed to stay at home and not start a business? Didn't you hear that? And so, yeah, I just, and I think, that like listen to that podcast. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I started thinking, okay, I have 6 girls. It is possible that they won't all get married. It's possible that they don't all want to get married. Like
100%.
and so I also start thinking about that message.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, it's okay. You can be a wonderful Christian woman and not get married and not have kids, and it doesn't mean that you're lacking anything.
And what if your dream is to have a career? Like, what if that's just what you want to do? That's okay, because you may end up on the mission field in a medical, you know what I mean, in medical profession. Or there's
there's things that you can't do when you. There's a reason that the Catholic Church. People can argue all day long about the pros and cons about why nuns and priests don't get married, but what they do actually get married to, and this might sound wild to people, but their commitment is to Jesus. So the responsibilities to be a father, that's why they call them father to the church, is because they honor family so much that you should not be giving yourself to the church when you need to give yourself to your family. So let's remove the family so you can serve the church. There's a clear delineation because they understand when you are a parent, that's where your energy goes. And when you're, say a sister, a nun, you're serving the world. You're serving the church. They're not asking you to do 2 things. And I do think that has turned into such a manipulative tactic, an unrealistic tactic in the Protestant church, because they're like, no, you should do this and you should do this and you should do this. And if you're not doing it right, we're going to make you feel so much guilt and shame. Whereas I do think, look in the other designs of, the church body, and I'm like, damn, they got it right. I actually think that's the honorable way to do it. But the model in the Protestant church is you don't have to be a nun, you don't have to be Catholic, but if that is where your calling is to serve the greater church, it doesn't mean the only way to do it is to be married. What if you get married and you can't have kids? Where's the spot for that person? And that's a huge identity crisis that parents married couples who can't have kids go through. Then they feel all this pressure to adopt. Then they feel all this pressure. And then do we do IVF? Do we not believe in IVF? Then do I have, my eggs harvested? And then what do I do with that? And now I feel guilty that I have an embryo. And like the guilt spiral is so insane to me. And I keep looking back to who keeps benefiting from this. It's weird who benefits over and over and over from the messages that they keep hammering. And if there's anything I'm like right now have a lot of feelings about is questioning everything and everyone on how do you benefit from what you're teaching? How do you benefit from what you're telling me? How does this come back around and benefit you? And it's shocking, and it's not, I don't think that's a place to live in your head. I think that's a dark place that you can go. But I do think some discernment and some wisdom and some pushback, because we've all been told not to do that in our church cultures. No, actually do it and analyze these men and women. How are you benefiting from the message that you're preaching?
Yeah.
That's where I'm
Yeah.
at with things. I'm not very happy
It's-
right now about this.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it does the like 6-10 years difference in like for the women who are that much younger than me. There is even just that little bit of shift. I feel like I sit at that edge of that generation that we were really told have families and stay home, get married young and have families and stay home. Again, there's nothing wrong with that and I wouldn't change that. It's just like as we're moving forward, what message do we want our girls to have that somehow falls in the middle of that way over here with the church, and then culture saying like do whatever you want. So where's the
Or
middle
culture
way?
saying there is no value in being a mother. There is
Yeah.
no value. You have no value if you do be a stay-at-home mom. Culture can spin it the whole other way. So damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Completely. I have such a funny upbringing because my mom, she kind of supported herself from really young. My dad and her got married fairly young, but my mom always worked. She's a little vain and she always looks super cute and whatever, but she worked at Nordstrom from the beginning, so she could put me in the clothes that she wanted and support me, whatever. And she put me in daycare. Something happened to me in daycare. We're not sure what it is. She pulled me out immediately, quit her job. She then opened her own salon and started doing hair and owned a super successful hair salon. I just remember running around in there and loved it. So I had a working mom, but I was also raised by my mom's best friend. And I basically had two different moms because Debbie, if she was still alive, I literally had like two moms. It was the weirdest thing. So I had a stay-at-home mom because Debbie, I was with her from morning till evening when my mom got me. And then my mom was my outdoor school counselor. Like that was horrible, but it was awesome at the same time. Yeah. So my mom, I love you, Mom, but my mom is, she's a silly goose and it's a little different now, but I had like a primo childhood, but I had both examples. I think I would have loved her to be home all the time. I was definitely a latchkey kid when I got old enough. My poor grandma had to get phone calls all the time when my sister and I were fighting because you can't call your mom and bug her at work. And, so I worked through all those things. But I was also lucky enough to be raised in a church where I do think that the moms that were volunteering all the time, like there was these are great moms. Like you always got like that definite vibe. Yeah. Like you could tell who was home, who was available to volunteer, who was always on the field trips, who was doing all this stuff. And my mom definitely tried to do as much as she could. But when Ben and I got married, his mom had worked so much because she had to, because they were immigrants, because they had nothing and they had to learn to speak English.
Yeah, you escaped communism.
Right. Like, so I have all these like different like colliding worlds that have given me this view. And Ben and I got married at 19, had not one pot to pee in, and just decided no matter what, when we had kids, I was going to be home because Ben when they were in Romania, his mom was home with him all the time. And his mom had kind of explained to us also, love you, Ruth, but there was a lot different. There was a huge difference between Ruth and Ben. Elizabeth could feel it. You know what I mean? Like just
so people that don't know, they're 8 years apart?
7 years apart. Yeah. Him and his sister.
So the brother, 7 years older than the little sister is.
And Ben was
the different
home.
experiences.
He got a spanking every 4 days, whether he needed it or not, just to remember the respect. And then I just think there's a difference between a kid that is around the adults all the time. And they didn't coddle him like a lot of these kids now that are having their moms like treat them like they're infants for many, many years. I mean, kids are in There would
Or
be
their
phase
dads,
2.
you guys.
Yeah.
It's not just
Or their
moms.
dads, yes,
I'm watching
sorry.
dads do it where I'm
Parents.
like,
Yeah.
my God. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
But I can totally see how we bend to culture, our culture,
Yeah.
whatever our culture is, because you
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to be doing what your tribe is doing. You don't want to be
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel good. But what was right about a culture that said that, when I'm literally reading the Bible right now, and it says in Proverbs 31:16, she considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Mm.
That sounds like
Yeah.
somebody that's working to me. And then in Proverbs 31:18, it says, she perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night.
Yeah.
So she can provide for
also,
herself.
herself or her family.
She
or
can.
whatever.
So
I mean, whatever
basically,
you're-
she can keep the power on because what she's doing in the world is providing for herself and her family, so she can pay the bills.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where the culture
Like-
that is built around the same book that says that
Yeah.
Yeah.
has put you into a scenario where now you're 50 years old and you're
Looking around.
you're
Yeah.
in a spot of massive reflection, going, what the heck? Because
Yeah.
I do think there's seasons where women need to turn it off, because there's times where
Yeah.
our kids go through things where F a job, because my
Yeah.
kids
Yeah.
are more important. And I know that
Yeah.
all of us sitting
Yeah.
here, not everybody has our blessings, but all
Yeah.
three of us could easily walk away from extra finances to take care of our kids. The Lord has blessed us
Yeah.
in that manner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's no way that we shouldn't be able to walk in our passion and have walked in our passion. You
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
sold a bill of goods, Jolie, and that's what you
Yeah.
have to come to grips with now.
Yeah.
And it's not fair and not good.
No.
Yeah.
But I do think too, with what you're saying is, let me think what I was going to say on that is you're righteously angry right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I
you
guess.
don't need to not be pissed. I've been through it. It's
At
okay
least
to be angry
frustrated.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely, I think, frustrated because, and all this say, I wouldn't change what I did. I'm happy. I mean, I stayed home with the kids. I'm happy I did that. Like, I think those are valuable, good years. I would say that, that still bad, like, just because I was a stay-at-home mom didn't mean bad things didn't happen and my kids didn't, like, receive all the attention they
Yeah.
ever needed. Like, there was still, like, gaps in parenting, but it's just, I wonder, like, what I've learned to manage my time better, what I've learned that, even to the point where, like, when I was told, okay, go to college, but here's the choices you should choose to major in. You should either be a teacher or a nurse.
Right.
Because those things, it's a career, but it's a career that you can lay down and you can pick back up again with family. Not that that's bad, but it's like, I don't want to be either one of those things. Like, that's not interesting to me at all. And so now I'm told, here's the things, because your number one passion should be this. Here's what your secondary thing can be. I'm like, except I don't want to do that. I want to be in fashion and I want to be doing all these other things. But, oh, no, that's not realistic to having a family. When the truth is, why? Like, I'm watching people do it, and why wasn't it? Why wasn't it something that I could also start pursuing and start doing?
Yeah.
Instead of, well, here's what you can do. You can decorate the church, or you can decorate your home. You can kind of help other people.
You can make the food. You can do coffee service. You can run women's groups. You're allowed to serve women's ministry. You can run the nursery at church, and you should. And you know what you should also do? Make sure you homeschool your children, because, well, oh my God, you send your kid to public school. Ugh, God. We don't do that. I mean, I'm 36. When I was 18, no, I was married at 19, but I didn't have a child till I was 26. And I was growing a business. And even in young marrieds group, like young married small groups,
Mm-hmm.
the blackball I got from the other people in this group that I was focusing on a career, mind you, followed all the rules. But the fact that I was growing a business, insult to injury, it was successful. Oh my God. You
Jealousy
couldn't.
and intimidation. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Wild, right?
Yeah.
And I knew, I was like, well, these aren't my people. But I never and this I think is good for luckily I could fight through this, but I don't think most people kind of can. Is I was like, well, forget you. Like, I've never run into this problem before. This is a you problem. Like, I had enough self awareness to realize, like, the rest of my life, this has never been a problem. So obviously, I can reflect that this is just you guys, and I don't care if you like me or not. Now, if I had been in a culture where that was the pattern for a really long time, I don't think I would have been able to have a perspective to reflect on. But what I think happens is people go through that experience who maybe are newer to the church or newer to church people, and they think everybody's like that. And they're like, I want nothing to do with this. Screw you guys. The outside world treats me with dignity and respect. You don't. I'm out. And that's why people leave church. In a nutshell, probably I would say the biggest church hurt. That's where it starts to me. It's those things of like, I was real, I was vulnerable, I gave my true self to this, and you either shunned me or you were catty or somehow I'm doing it wrong per your rules. Fuck you guys, I'm out. Sorry, we'll put explicit on there. But but I mean, truly, I'd been a believer since I was 3. So I at least had a foundation. But if you had just gotten started, you'd run for the hills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen a working women's Bible study on a list before.
See, now we
They're
have.
always
Now I will say
have
we
at
have that
night.
at church.
That's
We do
awesome.
have that, and so
I've never heard of it, and I
no.
think that's great.
we have Bible
That
study
actually
at
doesn't
night for
surprise
working
me.
for working
Yeah,
women, and
Yeah, that doesn't
and
surprise
so
me.
and yeah, this is no reflection on for sure the church that I'm in now or the fact that I volunteer at church now. This is not at all like
No,
I feel
no.
like my church now has an incredible culture, and I work with a lot of women who their career, yes, a lot of them are employed by the church or like they're encouraged to be employed or to do wherever God's leading them like that. And I think maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's part of it. Like I realized I'm part of a church for the last 4 or 5 years that like had this been my church the entire time,
Right.
would I have been encouraged to be able to do more things like to get outside the home more often and to even include my kids in that. Like
Mhm.
you know, I watch some of these women who their kids are part of their business
Yeah.
and they're running it like it's a family business.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
that's
oh, okay,
something
these
that
are
you
things I
see
never
all
even
the time
yeah,
in other
and I never
cultures.
for sure. And I never even really thought about it too much, and maybe it has more to do with the church that I grew up in and then my own family. I mean,
Yeah.
my mom was a stay-at-home mom. That was one of the questions I think my dad asked. Is she going to be able to stay at home? Like that's the goal. Like don't want my daughters working. Kind of thing. And so but I've had to like reframe that. No, it's okay. In fact, I think it's a good thing if my daughters have something outside the home that they're taking part in, that they're doing, that they're building who
want
they
that,
are.
though.
If they want that. Yeah.
If they want
that.
that. Like, I think that's like, for me, that was my biggest takeaway from that podcast. I know that it is hard to work super, super hard full time and raise your family. I know
Yeah.
that's really, really hard. And a lot of people do it. But that was the one thing that I took away is to figure out and help our kids hone what they really want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's missing. I don't think that we go to our kids at 13, 14, 16 and start asking them, hey, let's think about this before we apply for school. Hey, what are your dreams? Who's somebody's life that
Right.
you know that's older that you just think, I really would like to emulate that? Like, what a real
Yes.
person, not a mystery YouTuber or something that you
Right.
don't know what
Right.
the hell is that they're going on in their life. Who's somebody that you know or
Right.
somebody that you want to emulate your life after? Hopefully it's a
Yeah.
good person.
Yeah.
And see how to do that. Maybe get some mentorship from them. Maybe see, how can I help you do
Yeah.
that? Because I don't think that our parents, there's just different tools that we have now that,
Right.
and I don't even think it's a tool as much as it's just opening up and treating our kids like people and helping them
Right.
build a life before their life is even started. Why wait until it's a mess or we're 50 to try
Yeah.
and figure it out? Like, let's
Yeah.
look at it now and say, what would satisfy you? What would make you proud of yourself? What would give you purpose? And you can't really know that at 15. You're
Yeah, I
going
was
to be
gonna
different
say,
at 15 than
part
18
of this
and
is
21.
you're gonna think something. Well, and that's a culture in itself that it's actually perfectly okay to
change.
and it's okay to regret it and learn from it and make a mistake and say that was not the right call. But also in mentorship, which is a completely lost art. ADHD, don't forget what I'm about to think. And that is mentorship is you have to teach people how to seek mentorship now. This is not where it used to be, where the world was like an apprentice model and you were expected as you got older and became a master, you were expected to be a mentor to an apprentice. It's not the way the world's set up. So we have to actually do it, like, and step in and be those people as we're older, but teach our children how to seek it. So you're talking about a nurse anesthetist. I would be saying, let's go find a nurse anesthetist or multiple and ask them, what have been the obstacles? How did you get here? What do you wish you'd done differently? What are you really glad you did? When, have you decided that having a family is a good idea? When did you decide? How are you doing it? Like, teach me now all the things so I can glean from you, so I can help navigate a future based off of someone else's experiences. So it's so insular. And I think that's one of the topics. Did Alex talk about that with the Take Back Your Family episode with Jefferson Bethke? Do you know what I'm talking about? He was talking about raising the lost, like, what does he say? The nuclear family is actually the death to society, because what it's turned into is we're just our little mom, dad, and 2 kids, 3 kids, 6 kids, whatever. But where really the true village is, if it's healthy and possible to do, it's your grandparents, it's your aunts, it's your uncles, it's your neighbors, it's your friends' parents. It's not everyone has a church, but could be the people in the church. It could be that. That you're actually raising a family together. Most people don't have that. So just because culture's changed. So one, being intentional that you can shift that at any time, but also part of the village is seeking the mentorship from people doing things that you naturally gravitate towards. If you're very scientific, teach your kids how to go talk to people in that avenue. If you are very, you love the idea of being a caretaker, go talk to caretakers. If you're, whatever. But imagine doing that at 13 or 14 versus you go to college, you F around through your prereqs, and then, oh my God, I have to choose a master. Oh my God, and now I'm basing it all off of money. Or, well, this seems fun. Or now I have a communications degree and I have no idea what to do with it. Now I have $100,000 in debt or whatever. What if we could have just done this when you were 14?
Yeah.
For free.
At least start to discuss it. Yeah.
Well, I think, so one of my friends always asks the question of her clients, is, what do you want your life to look and feel like? And I do think that's kind of what you were saying, Tiffany, like we need to be asking our kids that question at 12, at 15, like maybe even like keeping a journal. What do you want your life to look and feel like? And as a family, sit down and say, what do we want our life to look and feel like? And then how do we pursue that together? And so that they are learning, you get to have an opinion on what you want your life to look and feel like. And then here's some action steps to get there. And here's what we can do to start making that happen. Because sometimes I think, and I know culture has really changed, and we're kind of on the tail end of this because our kids are almost all out of the house, but not everyone's going to college anymore, because to have my life be what I want it to be and what it looks and feels like doesn't require college education.
That's absolutely a truth.
It requires a mentorship. Like, one of my daughter's fiancés did essentially an internship at 19 that got him into the career that he's in now. That's fabulous. Like, so it's like, okay, because he made a decision back here in high school, like, this is what I want. This is interesting to me. I'm going to pursue that. And we really need to be asking our kids that, boys or girls. But I feel like with girls, like, it's okay if you say something different than the norm. Like, it's okay if you say, yeah, I want to have a family and kids, but I also want this in my life. And so let me start learning at 16, 17, what that's going to look like and how I can make that happen, that I can do all these different things and follow that path. And I think, we're just not asking the questions, and then giving them, not just not asking, but then giving them the tools to pursue. Okay, so then maybe you don't do this or you don't do that.
Right. What do we do now? Because this conversation came up because we were talking about our podcast, and I had said, oh my gosh, I had kind of put it on the back burner because I'd been working a lot.
That's right.
I have at this point, I have a few different jobs, streams of income, and I just had a really busy week. And Jolie's like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Oh, I picked up another job." But how do we approach where you're at, Jolie? How does somebody that feels like you look inside, figure out what to do now? Because you're not just going to say, well, I have nothing to do, I'm just going to sit back and do nothing now. Now we have to figure out, because there are people in your season, in my season, where I found a niche, and randomly it worked, and that's fine. I don't always have something to do, but a lot of times I do. But what do you do if you are in that scenario? Like, what are you doing? What is your, do you have a plan? Are you just sitting at the frustration level right now? Like, because I think that's good. Like, yes, talk to your family about it. But I think we also need to be able to be honest with each other. I'm feeling a little bit lost, a little bit unfulfilled, and we should be able to communicate with each other on those feelings as well, especially if we do have good community.
Right. So for me, like, we've tried a couple different things, and here's the thing. Partly I sit in a space where, financially, like, we don't need me to have a job, and financially, like, I can try different things. And so I know that that's not where everyone sits who's in my place. But so a few years ago, we tried doing like a clothing, and that just actually financially didn't make sense because it's such a long process and it's so expensive to get off the ground. And I think where we are in our life now, we don't want to throw money at that. But had I have done that years ago and built it slowly, maybe it would have been different. But so now it's like, okay, what does it look like for me to, start following some of the things I'm passionate about? And, what do I want my life to look and feel like? And so, and for me, it's art. And so it's hard. It's hard to start. Like, I feel like it does feel a little bit harder to start. But I do have a friend who says, start, where you are with what you have. And so, because in my head, like, okay, well then I need a studio and I need all these things. And it's like, no, okay, I'm just going to start where I am with what I have and just start doing more painting. I am traveling more to learn to do that. And it is the mentorship. I have to get over the fact that I feel like too old for this and find some people that, that I can like, they can be mentors to me. And I think also it's the process of talking about it. I think I didn't really realize that there's like a grieving process of, man, I'm watching young moms run successful businesses and do their things. I'm like, oh wow, could have done that or whatever. And so first get through the grieving that these are the choices I made and now I'm gonna do something different. And then actually do it. Like, I think that's the part. It's like, get over the fact that, okay, I'm not too old for this. So just start and then use the resources. I mean, I've talked to people like, okay, how do you get into this? How do you start selling art? How do you plan a, art retreat? How do you do these things that make sense for my life? Because to be fair, I'm not super business minded. Like, I know you two are more like business minded and help people run successful businesses with finances and all that. That I am not good at that. Like, you want to talk to me about I have to have insurance for this and I have to, legal things for this. I'm like, no, that's what I'm going to be good at.
But you use the people around you to get what you want. That's the thing.
Don't give me that much credit. I just know the people who know the answers.
So I think it's that, and then take opportunity. Like, I had someone come to me and say, hey, you want to do a retreat together? I go, yes. And then actually pursue that. Like, okay, I do want to do this. I do want to see what this looks like. And if it works for my life, because I mean, again, the reality is I do have more kids than most. And I still, I mean, like you said, Tiffany, I'm still going to drop this over here so I can spend time with my kids when they call. Like, I'm not going to do a 9-to-5 job that says, oh, sorry, busy today. I can't hang out with you. So like, it has to be something that works for the life I set up. Yeah.
I think that's what I don't want to do a 9-to-5. And I think we have to give our kids freedom and creativity to even come up with those things if that's not for them. You know what I mean?
Right.
When they have kids, then steer them in the direction of finding something where it can be where you have the ability to do that, and we have to make that okay for them. That has to be okay, because it's the opposite of what you're saying, stay home. When we say no, go out and pursue your passions, but you're allowed to pull back when it's time, and you're allowed to work in the confines that work for you.
Right.
Whether you're 20, 25 or 50, we should be allowed to be fluid and ever changing in that.
Fluid. I like that. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is we live, I mean, the other part that's different from where I was when I was a young mom is there's a whole nother world of social media and all these things. So, I mean, podcasts, I mean, there's none of that. We didn't have Instagram. I mean,
nothing.
When I was a young mom, I didn't even have Facebook. So like, I mean, I think that's the thing. Like, there's so much more opportunity. And for me, now I have to learn how to use that opportunity to, to pursue what I want. Like, using the social media, using all these different things that now our kids have that they could work from home, because, I mean, you watch all these people who have whole online businesses that, like, I mean, Etsy was, my kids were all in elementary school, high school, and Etsy, I think, started. Like, there's all these things and tools that I didn't access because, social media I'm not sure about, or online stuff. Right. And now it's like, okay, I have to learn how to use those. And then, teach the kids, like, this is an okay thing to do. Work from home, do whatever. There's so much more opportunity, I think, now. Yeah. For women to have these businesses and be at home using the tools that the world has given us.
Well, one thing that you were talking about that made me think, like, in similar to the vein of like, what do you want it to look and feel like, is what do you define as success?
Yeah. And I
What
think
is
that's the
success to just Jolie? You know what I
yeah.
mean? And not to put you
Yeah.
on the spot right now, but like,
Right.
there's action steps, but to what end? You know, at what point are you feeling like this is exactly what I want it to look like and feel like? And that's the
Right.
success for you, whether it be
Yeah.
monetary and impact and size and schedule and whatever. But
And
that's
I
not
think
for
that's
anybody else to decide but
right.
yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hard piece, because if I just looked at like what does success look like, then yeah, I think for the most part, for 75% of that, like that's what I have. Like I feel like I success with my kids and family, success with my impact on, um, like in my community, in my church, with my kids, with their friends, like what we've done and what I've built in that area. I feel like, okay, that's success. I think the 25% that's missing is, now I'm realizing I wish I would have contributed financially,
Mm.
which is, it's weird. I know, but like part of me is like, oh, I wish I had that little piece where I did participate in the finances. I did, like, I am contributing to the trip we're taking. I can do these things because I contributed financially. Um, and that's not at all any reflection on my husband. Obviously, that doesn't, I mean, of course he would love if like there was extra income, just because whatever, who wouldn't? But like there hasn't been any pressure for that. But now that I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, like I have some skills that are marketable
Mm-hmm.
that I could have contributed financially. I could have built something. And it's hard because like I don't want to sit and go, well, I wish I would have just built a business with my name on it so that I would be somebody that the
Right.
world was like, ooh, look what she did. I mean, obviously there's a little piece of that I try to put down, because it's not about building a name for myself, but it is about contributing in
Yeah.
in one more way. Because
Right.
yeah, I think I can, in all the other ways I can look and say that was success. And I've had people say, but you do have success in your children, in the relationships you've built, in the ministry you have. Yes, but none of that brought in any kind of financial benefit.
Right.
And there is just a piece. I would never say that should be the whole thing, but it is, feels like it's a piece of the puzzle that's just missing.
Yeah.
And
That I
like,
wish I would have.
that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a desire of yours. I know
Yeah.
right now Ben paid for London's school portion of our trip. And I said, you know
Yeah.
what? I'm not going to take another penny from our family for the rest of it. And I'm going to pay for it. I even told Jolie this week, Jolie and I are going to be in a golf tournament next week. I'm like, right now, I can't, I get my little monies from Ben and
Yeah.
we live off that and we're going to be in a golf tournament. And I'm like, I'm putting all my money. I mean, right now, number one, I don't know even what size I am or have any golf clubs. So I have to get some new golf clubs. But we're doing a golf tournament. And I'm like, I don't have it right now. I had to say, no, this is the part that sucks about the finances when you do want to step up, because I made a goal for myself and I'm
Yeah.
really trying hard to live up to it. But in that time, I've had to
Yeah.
say no to a girls' trip to Vegas this week. I can't go crazy buying golf clothes with Jolie for our golf tournament. There's another side of it, but at that same time, that sucks. But it is feel good, even when I have to say no and I have to kind of limit myself. It does feel good to reach a goal,
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
using that. And so I can understand exactly where you're coming from, just from this circumstance alone, because it is nice to contribute. There's just something that and I don't even know if it's a right feeling or a necessary feeling, but it's a feeling, and
It
that's
is a
all that
feeling.
matters.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what I think it is, because I mean, Christian rarely says no to me about you can't buy that or you can't do that or whatever, but that's not, that it has nothing to do with what our bank account says. It has everything to do with, did I feel like I contributed, and in a way, like, not just a, like, I got a job, at the grocery, like, not just that, not just a paycheck, but like contributed in a way that's something I feel like, I don't know, good about, like with my art or with interior design or with whatever it is. Like, I feel like I've dabbled in all these places, but never pursued any one of them to a place of contributing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's the thing. I wish I would have done that. And now, okay, how do I do that?
Yeah.
So
that's kind of the fun part, because now you can think
explore
on it.
that.
Yeah.
Can I read something long when you're talk, Ashley, and then I want to read something.
Oh yeah. I was thinking about your list too of, or not list, but you were saying like start to journal about what does it look and feel like, what's the life that you want to create. And I was thinking, and I'm sure this will be a whole other topic, but what if you started doing that at, say, what ages were we talking about? Even 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
How could your daughters or my sons use that as they filter for their future partners?
Right.
If my thing is peace, and that would have been a consistent thing throughout from 12 to now. And I could have used that to date with more of a filter.
Yeah, it's so funny that as you were saying that, I was thinking about what was I told to make a list of when I was 12, 13, 14, 15, who I wanted to marry.
Yeah.
The characteristics of who I wanted to marry. That was what I was told to journal and make a list of and refine and do over the years. But had I have made a list of what I want my life to look and feel like, of course that would have included who I want to marry, but it would have been so much more, and it would be able to, like, for someone like you, Ash, like you would have seen a bigger picture, and then maybe not married such a jerk.
Maybe or maybe I would have, like, there's I mean, truly, like, and we're also talking about, if anybody's listening to this, don't be hard on yourself. There's people who are very, 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 very good at hiding things until decisions have been made. But I also could have caught that and done something with it the first year. Or the second, or the third, or the fourth, or, oh my God, why does it feel like this now that we're pregnant? Or why does it feel like, because I could have had documentation where I was looking at what do I want, and never was I taught to look at what do I want, other than here's the list of things that are supposed to be what I'm looking for a husband. But none of those things came down to how it made me feel. Ever. And even if it helps you later on, if they're like, well, that was your practice marriage and that's okay. Like, just, like, it happens. This is your rough draft. It's fine. But can you imagine if you had been, like, wow, I feel this way. And when I'm with this person, this is what keeps happening. This keeps coming up. Now I have something to reflect on, going, I don't like the way that makes me feel. This isn't right. Or you have your reticular activator, which is the thing in your brain when you buy a red Jeep, then all of a sudden everybody drives a red Jeep. You program your mind to over and over and over. You're saying consistently from the time I was 13 to the time I'm 25, I'm consistently saying I want a life that looks like whatever. I am looking for that person that fits, like, without even trying. But when I see it and I feel it, I'm going to know it because I programmed it to identify that. They don't they didn't teach that stuff back in our day. But I can't.
Not at all.
There's one of them. Look at that. And sometimes you do it right the first time, which is great.
Yeah.
But, we have a new chance with these kids to
Yeah,
learn
definitely.
and change. What did you want to read? I want to hear it.
Well,
Yeah.
I just wanted to read, actually made Ben listen to this morning. And I wanted to read America Ferrer's monologue from Barbie, and I'm sure everybody's heard it. But I'd love to actually just put the video in here. But I think this is so good. I'm just going to read it. It says, it's literally impossible to be a woman. You're so beautiful and so smart. It kills me that you don't think you're good enough. Like, we always have to be extraordinary, but somehow we're always doing it wrong. You have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but you have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. And you have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but you can't talk about all your kids all the damn time. You have to be a career woman, but you always have to be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane. But if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. You're supposed to stay pretty for men, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much or that you threaten other women, because you're supposed to be a part of the sisterhood. But always stand out and always be grateful, but never forget that the system is rigged. So find a way to acknowledge that, but always be grateful. You have to never get old, never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. It's too hard, it's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault. And I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us. And if all of that is also true for a doll, talking about Barbie, just representing women, then I don't even know. And I think that's just perfect. Like, I feel like there's no answer. Like, it's a doll. If a doll can't do it, we can't do it. We just have to figure out what works. And I think what's cool about our conversations is that we do get to reflect, and we do all have kids, and we can just try and either make ourselves better, our friends better, or our kids better, so we can pay it forward. I don't know. I've come to figure out that's all we can do. And usually if we're doing something the culture is telling us not to do, it might just be the right thing to do, because I feel like most of the things that we're told to do, we should probably do the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least heavily question it.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's good. I think we did good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we end it there?
Yeah.
I think so.
I think
that was a good place to end. Yep.
But that's the feeling. So whenever you see, when you really get into it with women and they're like, I can't win. I'm failing at everything I do. And you're looking at them going, you're crushing it. But part of it is everything that she's saying is it's also designed for us to be incredibly self-critical.
Yeah. I think that's the thing is we've got to teach our kids that they have options and cheer on our friends wherever we are.
Yeah.
Help
for sure.
Talk it out with Jolie what she wants to do.
Yeah.
Let ourselves go to work and make as much money as we want. Try and pay for my kid's trip to Europe. It's so dumb. I could not be doing it, but I want to, and so I can. And you want to, so you can.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's good. All right. Well, hopefully. Okay. Yeah. We'll see what we talk about in a couple weeks. No, it's
we'll see
what happens.
Just for reference, I think we have probably 2 more episodes until summertime. And then Ashley has 3 boys running around all summer. And I'm in Europe. I think Jolie is also going to Europe and a bunch of other places. So we'll probably take a break for the summer after a couple episodes. But you got a couple more weeks of us.
Yeah.
That means we'll get to episode 9.
Good.
Yes. Perfect.
Perfect. Season 1.
Season
Yeah, there you
one.
go.
Okay.
Perfect.
Love you guys.
All
Have a
right.
great
Love
day.
you.
Love you.
Okay.